everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk and to the Let's Talk review show. And this week we got 3 reviews for you guys. We're going to be doing our channel director's reviews this week. So we're going to do Frank from Frank's Media Reviews. Our channel director, he wants me to talk about 3 extremes. Mr. Smelly Potato wants me to review Jennifer's Body. And we're also going to talk about the Tim Burton film from 2012, Frankenweenie, all spooky season movies. But let's start it off with Mr. Smelly Potato's channel director review, Jennifer's Body from 2009. It's written by Diablo Cody, who also wrote Juno, and you can really tell with the dialogue in this movie. And it is directed by Karen Kusama. And this movie is very much known for starring Megan Fox, really at the height of her powers. This is only a couple years after Transformers, might even be the same year as Dark of the Moon. So Megan Fox really couldn't have been higher in the world at this time. She was never really considered a great actress, but man, people did love Megan Fox at this time, and they kept putting her in movies, and I never really thought she was that bad or that great. I was just always very indifferent on her. Always thought she was a beautiful woman. This movie also stars Amanda Seyfried. This is only about, 5 years after Mean Girls, and Amanda Seyfried would eventually become a great actress herself. People finally started to recognize that, man, she can really act her ass off, especially when we got to Mank, and I believe she might have received an Academy Award nomination for her work in that movie. Well deserved, but she should have gotten more notice for this movie, because as good as Megan Fox is in this movie, and she is good, Amanda Seyfried is fantastic in this film. And again, the dialogue, it's very quirky, it's very much, if you saw Juno, it kind of takes that, maybe scales it back a little bit, but if it gets that quirky dialogue where, the kind of sayings that they're using, it's very much of the time of 2009. And another big difference about this movie compared to a lot of other horror movies of that era, it's not an ugly movie. This is actually a very, very well shot movie, which surprised me because I was seeing a lot of horror movies at that time, including this one, and I wrote it off in 2009. I really did. I don't know what it was. I was in 11th or 12th grade at the time, and I just wrote this movie off mainly because I was probably being a cinema snob and just being one of those guys like, Jennifer's Body, Megan Fox. Well, thankfully, Mr. Smelly Potato made me rewatch this movie, and goddamn, I appreciated the hell out of it this time. This is a really fun horror movie that you guys definitely should check out. It's just kind of a very simple tale. At the very beginning of it, we see Amanda Seyfried's character. She's in a mental institution. We don't know why. And then we flash back. We see where she lives. We see that she's friends with Megan Fox. And of course, we're still doing the typical nerdy girl thing. Amanda Seyfried, she's a beautiful woman. So of course, we're going to tie her hair back. We're going to pick out the world's ugliest glasses. I don't care who you are, that no one would ever wear them. But we're going to pop them on her so that we know that Megan Fox is the pretty girl and Amanda Seyfried is just a friend of the pretty girl getting dragged along by her. And then, of course, throughout the movie, we are going to actually break down their relationship because at the very beginning, it just seems like they're really good friends. But Megan Fox, of course, being the pretty girl in school, she kind of just feels like she's, that's my friend over there and I'll take care of her. And Amanda Seyfried kind of feels that way. She feels left out. But, she's kind of getting a boyfriend herself. But Megan Fox, she's starting to get a little jealous of that, and we start to peel back a little bit more layers of their relationship. But then something really shitty happens where a band comes into town, and then at the club they're playing at, it goes on fire, people die, some people escape, Megan Fox escapes, but she escapes with the band. And the band, they really did have an attraction there, and then in the middle of the night, Amanda Seyfried's character, she's sleeping, Megan Fox shows up, just eats everything in her fridge, and it turns out she's got this hunger. Something about her, almost vampire-ish, where she needs to eat some flesh, and that's when she starts to, take notice of the nerdy guys in school, the guys who were wearing clothes that I wore back in high school in 2009. The clothes in this movie made me nostalgic, but not really in a good way. It reminded me of when I was in high school and the clothes we used to wear, and, those really ugly, kind of almost bowl haircuts. I had one of those haircuts. I looked ridiculous, but still, it reminded me of high school. So I was kind of getting those nostalgic feelings. I just was cringing a little bit at the clothes. Damn, I wore clothes like that. I must have looked like such an asshole. But, that was the time. And then, we start to uncover a little bit more as the story starts to unfold and why she wants to eat their flesh. But again, it just starts to become a movie about these two characters' friendship. And Amanda Seyfried's character, no one believes her. They think she's a weakness. It is kind of a woman empowerment movie as well. A feminist movie in a lot of ways. And Amanda Seyfried's character, she's got to overcome all this. Everyone thinks her boyfriend doesn't think she can handle it. But she's going to be the one that's going to stop the evil that's in Megan Fox's character. And then gain the respect she should deserve as the movie is going on. But of course, it doesn't end that way. And I'm not going to spoil how this movie ends. All I'm going to say is if you wrote this movie off back in 2009 and based on the Rotten Tomatoes critic and audience score, a lot of people did, like I did back in the day, give this one another watch because it definitely deserves it. Again, it's a well-shot, Very well acted movie, very well written movie. There are some weird tonal shifts throughout the film where, we're kind of bouncing between comedy, horror, and it'll feel like a little bit too dramatic at points, which doesn't fit the overall tone of the movie. That's why I can honestly say it's not a perfect horror movie, but still, it's one that's a lot of fun. And if you want to just enjoy yourself one spooky night and have a good spooky season movie, check out Jennifer's Body. And next up on our list is the one from Frank's Media and Reviews, who was also checking this out, I believe, for the first time. And he said, you know what, if I'm checking it out, you should check it out as well. And this is the 2004 Asian anthology horror film, Three Extremes, a sequel to a 2002, same thing, anthology horror film called Three. But this one, Three Extremes, came out in 2004, and the three directors of these three films that appear in this are Fruit Chan directed Dumplings, Park Chan-wook, yes, that Park Chan-wook, directed the second one, Cut, and then the final one was directed by Takashi Miike, and he directed Box. So all three of them, simple names, three great directors in their own right. Obviously, Park Chan-wook, a lot of people recognize that name because of Old Boy, but he has directed so many great films. His Vengeance trilogy is considered one of the greatest of all time, and his movies always kind of operate in that thriller genre, and man, this one is another great one that he has in here. Cut, for the three films that are in here, is my favorite of the three. Park Chan-wook just directed the hell out of it. But the first one, Dumplings, is also a very interesting one. A subject that's kind of been explored a lot as women are getting older. They always want to find ways, because unfortunately, the movie business just frowns upon women getting older. They get less and less work, mainly because, unfortunately, the movie industry can be very shallow, especially towards women, and you start to get less and less roles as you get older. So women kind of, I've seen this in a lot of movies, like Neon Demon. It's also exploring this, and I haven't seen it yet, but The Substance that came out this year is also exploring something very similar about, trying to stay young. And a woman, she's able to make these dumplings that help out women stay young. And why are these dumplings doing that? What is the reasoning? Well, it's revealed that they're using fetuses, and some of them, depending on the age, they'll help you out even more. So it's a very, very, very dark subject that they're exploring in this movie. It'll definitely get under your skin. There's some imagery in here that really, it got to me, and I thought it was a very good one. And actually, Dumplings had a theatrical release where they added in some other scenes. But from there, we get into what is by far the best, in my opinion, Cut, directed by Park Chan-wook. This follows around a director who, we see him. He seems like a very nice guy, well-mannered guy. He goes home after a long day at work. He puts in the score to his new film. He wants to listen to it. Then he notices that something seems out of place, and then he gets knocked out. And when he wakes up, he sees his wife, who is a pianist herself. All her fingers are tied down and glued to a piano. And there's a guy there, turns out to be a former extra in a bunch of his movies, 5 films, I think they said. And he feels like he's just gotten the shaft in life. Life has been shitty to him. He's got a wife and kid, and nothing has gone his way. He thought he'd be a big-time actor. And he says, it's not fair that a guy like this, most rich people, they're assholes, but you're a nice guy, so you can't have it all. And it's just not fair to a guy like me who's, born ugly, and I'm never going to get this chance that you got. I'm always overlooked. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take out my anger on you. And this one unfolds beautifully, builds up to a fantastic conclusion, and this is by far, if you're going to watch just one of the films in this anthology series, I would say definitely check this one out. It's the best shot by far, has one of the coolest, actually has 2 really cool transitions that you have to see. Obviously the suspense that builds up throughout is done very well, and this also features, in my opinion, the best acting, which then brings us to Box. And Box unfolds in a very unique way, because it seems like it's very disjointed as it's going, a lot of scary imagery. You're trying to figure out what's going on, and then when we get to the very end of it and it's revealed what was going on, it makes this make a lot more sense. So Box would be much more rewarding on rewatch once you find out what is going on, and I absolutely love the ending of it. It's a real mindfuck. And honestly, all 3 films in this anthology series are very, very, very well done. Are they the greatest that I've ever seen? No, it's not the best anthology film I've ever seen, but damn, I had a great time. It made me want to watch more Park Chan-wook films. That's what it put me in the mood for. It was I might go down a Park Chan-wook rabbit hole, because he is just an unbelievable director. And Three Extremes, it's definitely a showcase for him more than everybody else. But either way, what a fantastic anthology film. And then the final film that we're going to talk about today is the forgotten Tim Burton classic, in my opinion, Frankenweenie. And this is actually the first time I've watched the movie since 2012. Emmanuel wanted me to talk about this, as somebody who follows the channel, because he's not a big horror fan, but he likes Tim Burton. And Tim Burton never goes like full-fledged horror. There's always like, he kind of floats that edge. He's got some comedy in a lot of his films. Look at Beetlejuice, look at Edward Scissorhands. They always feel like gothic horror films. Well, they get the great Danny Elfman scores. And then, of course, he obviously loves animation. Look at A Nightmare Before Christmas using the stop-motion animation. Yes, he didn't direct that. That really was a passion project for him. And luckily, Henry Selick, directed the hell out of that movie and did a fantastic job. And you know that he's a great director because he also directed Coraline, which has a similar tone. But we're here to talk about Frankenweenie, directed by Tim Burton. In 1984, he did a short film that kind of really got him a lot of jobs that opened the door to him working in Hollywood and eventually led to Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But he eventually came back and gave us a full version of this in 2012. Now, why haven't I watched this movie in 12 years, despite it being a great movie? Well, I'm a dog lover, and there's a scene in this movie, because this movie is a spoof of Frankenstein, but, instead of it being Frankenstein's monster, we have this kid who's actually named Victor Frankenstein, so that's all you need to know about this movie, and Frankenstein's monster is going to end up being his dog, but his dog, that's his best friend, because this kid's kind of an outcast at school. He doesn't have that many friends. He loves to make movies, so it's probably Tim Burton looking back at his life, feeling like an outcast. That takes place in the 1950s, and if you watch this movie, the animation's in black and white. It actually kind of feels and looks like Edward Scissorhands, like that neighborhood in Edward Scissorhands. It looks very similar to that, so, Tim Burton just must have certain images in his mind. And, obviously the great animation that Tim Burton puts in a lot of his movies, because this is the only animated film that Tim Burton's ever done. But this is by far the best, in my opinion. And then, of course, just being the dog lover that I am, I have 2 dogs, and they are like my children. I love them more than anything. So in this movie, when the dog gets hit by a car and dies, it kills me. I'll break down and cry every single time, even though I know what's going to happen, because this is a children's movie. We're not going to go that dark right in the beginning, even though there's plenty of movies where dogs die. The kid himself, he's able to, because he's a very smart kid, bring his dog back to life like Frankenstein's monster. But it doesn't end like Frankenstein, thank God. But there are plenty of homages to Frankenstein in this movie, and all of the Universal monsters, mainly Frankenstein, but still, you get all that stuff in here. It's a lot of fun. The animation is just amazing. It's breathtaking at points. We don't see too many animated films done in black and white, so it was very impressive. And of course, it's a very heartwarming film. It has a very good, fun third act, and it's done by Disney, and it feels like a Disney film. But man, that one scene when the dog dies, I'm telling you, it's really rough and hard for me to watch. It's the same thing like with John Wick. So when a dog dies in a movie, it's very hard for me to run back and rewatch it. Luckily for me, this movie does have a very happy ending, like I would hope it would. But watching that one scene, it's a little bit tough for me. But Frankenweenie, if you're not somebody who absolutely loves horror movies, this is the kind of movie you can watch with the family. This is definitely a good gateway horror film. Get them into that, and then of course you move on to bigger and better Tim Burton movies. But Frankenweenie on its own, it's still a fantastic film. And guys, that's gonna do it here for me on another episode of the Let's Talk Review Show. This show might actually take a slight hiatus for the next couple of weeks, because we have a lot of 4K Blu-rays coming. I believe I have 8 in the next 2 weeks, so I'm gonna try and knock out as many 4K Blu-ray reviews for you guys as I can. But this week, I figured we'd do our director's reviews, talk a couple of spooky season movies. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, or a producer like John Doe Juggalo and Jason Martin, or you can even become a channel director like Frank from Frank's Media Reviews and Mr. Smelly Potato. But if you got no money to throw away, guys, don't worry about it at all. We just hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.